Chadi. Yamuna Tiravana Chadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivara Adi. Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivara Adi. Jasodanandana Brajachandranjana. Jasodanandana Brajachandranjana. Yamunatiravana Yamunatiravana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Harividakataraja Astatarasatasi Madhus Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Grantaraj Shamad Bhagavatam Ki Gora Premanandi. I'll ask a question for starters. We've been speaking about Queen Kunti and the prayers of Queen Kunti, which is found in Canto 1, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 8. So is there anybody in the room that needs an introduction to who is Queen Kunti? You're okay? Okay, good. This is a painting that was at one time one of the cover paintings for the teachings of Queen Kunti or the prayers of Queen Kunti, because our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, who's Vyasa-san is over here, he spoke on all these verses. They were transcribed and then printed as a book. Prayers of Queen Kunti, teachings of Queen Kunti. And the particular painting is depicting one of the verses in her prayers where it shows she's seated by the side of the river Ganges and she's offering a prayer that as the Ganges flows forever downstream to the sea, let my mind flow forever towards you. Nothing can stop the Ganges flowing towards the sea, and let nothing stop my mind from flowing towards you. And another very nice painting. This is the scene of her prayers. The scene is following the Kurukshetra battle. Her eldest son, King Yudhishthira, assumed the royal throne in Hastinapur. And Krishna remained with them for some time because he had come, as you know, all the way from Dwarka, and yet he didn't participate in the war. as Balaram didn't participate in the war. Balaram went on pilgrimage, and Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjun's chariot with the commitment that you get the first choice, Duryodhana. You can have my armies or me. I'll take your armies, thank you. And Arjun said, I'll take you, thank you. And so Krishna became the chauffeur, which is the servant of the person who's being driven around, took the position of the servant of his devotee. That's our Krishna. He was very happy to be the chariot driver of Arjuna. So he stayed with the royal family in Hastinapur for some time. And now it's time for him to return along with his associates back to his place of residence, which is in Dwarka. Big journey all the way from Delhi to Dwarka, because Hastinapur was in that vicinity. And the time had come. Krishna was in his chariot, as the painting shows. Daruka, his chariot driver, is ready to take off. And Kunti, bless her heart, she has royal privileges because she's the mother of the king. She was the queen when her husband was alive. So she worked her way through the crowd and came right before the chariot and offered prayers. She said everything except, please don't leave, because she didn't want to bind Krishna to her words, but that was what was her heart. So she said everything but. And there's sections of prayers we've been covering so far, starting with text 18. And we got a few verses. We're going to, this midday here, we're discussing 23, 24 of her prayers. And these two, 23, 24, are focusing on one of the features of Krishna to give protection to his devotees. We spoke about it a little bit yesterday, and now this is the focus for today. In Bhagavad Gita, many of you know Bhagavad Gita, the verses of Bhagavad Gita. And if you know the verse, you can say it with me. Paritranaya sadhunam vinachaya chaduskritam dharma sangsthapanartaya sambhavami yuge 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 yuge. From age to age, from time to time, Krishna appears personally to accomplish these three things. Pritranaya sadhunam, to give protection to the devotees or to deliver the devotees. Pritranaya sadhunam. Second, vinashaya duskritam, to check the influence of duskritis. Vinash means annihilate. Vinashaya duskritam. Dharma sangstha panartaya, to restore or reestablish the principles of Dharma. Those three things. Sambhavami yuge yuge. He comes from time to time, from age to age. In each day of Brahma. Brahma lives a long time. Even his day is a long time, what to speak of his lifetime. And each day of Brahma, Krishna appears once in the day of Brahma. And then the universe is withdrawn and Krishna doesn't appear where there's no universe. And again, the universe is created by his potency, and he comes and performs these same three activities. So this focus, these two verses are focusing on the first one of those. Pritranaya sadhunam, or more specifically, palana. Shakti, palana. He gives protection to his devotees. Sometimes Krishna comes himself, sometimes he sends a representative, sometimes he empowers a living entity. Those empowered living entities, they're called What's the name for those empowered living entities? Shakti Avesh avatar. Shakti Avesh avatar. Forms of the Lord that are, because they're empowered by him, they act like him. Shakti Avesh avatars. So one of those Shakti Avesh avatars, Jiva, who bears the potency of the Supreme Lord, because he's very strong, is Prithu Maharaj. Prithu was the manifestation of the Lord's Palana Shakti. And when the Lord himself does his Palana program, as he does with the Pandavas, Kunti recognizes it. And she honors him and praises him for it. Now, this is done with some recording. And on the screen, you'll see the verse and then the next verse. And the way the recording goes is there's a nice singer, Sri Rupa Dasi, she'll sing. But there's some musicians that accompany her so you can hear it. And then together we can recite it and pause. And then she'll sing it again or recite it again and you can sing along. We learn the verses this way. You like to learn verses? I can tell. I won't put you on the spot and ask you to recite, so. But I'm sure you can do it. Okay. So, presuming that technology is going to cooperate with us, here's the verse.
Vimochitam cha sahatmaja vibho Svayeva nadena mukul
Yata Rishikesha Kanena Devaki Kansena Radhachi Dhuram Sucharpita Vimochitaham Cha Sahatmata Vibho Mayeva Natena Mahurvipatya. Oh, Rishikesha, master of the senses and Lord of lords, you have released your mother Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious king Kamsa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers. And the next verse is going to list the dangers. This is the principle of protection. One of our commentators is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who has written commentary on all the verses of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. This is from his writing. When Duryodhana, these are the dangers. When Duryodhana tried to feed Bhima a poisoned cake, when Duryodhana tried to burn the Pandavas alive in a palace made of lac, when the brothers had to face man-eating Rakshasas like Hidimba, when they were cheated by the Kauravas in gambling, and on numerous other occasions. That's the subject matter of the next verse. Here's Krishna releasing his mother and father, Balaram's by his side too, from the prison house of Kamsa. This is after he KO'd Kamsa. And Chandra and Mushtaka and the brothers. Krishna was, at this time, Krishna's age was 11. We had 2 boys. Their birthday is 9. The twins. Just 2 years after that was the age of Krishna. Wasn't really big, but he was all powerful because he's Bhagavan. He has all power, all strength, all strength. No one can deal with him. So he went to the prison house, released his mother and father, and he also arranged for Ugrasena to be released from prison. That's Ugrasena was Kamsa's father. The guy was so bad, he imprisoned his father, took over the throne, put his father in prison. Krishna released him. So here's Kunti Devi offering her prayers. Kunti Devi was shown far more favor because Lord Krishna did not save the other children of Devaki, whereas he saved the children of Kunti Devi. Why? This was done because Devaki's husband Vasudeva was living, whereas Kunti Devi was a widow. And there was none to help her except Krishna. The conclusion is that Krishna endows more favor to a devotee who is in greater dangers. So if you want Krishna's favor, you know what to do, right? Have lots of dangers. Don't take foolish risks, but if it just happens, you're getting Krishna's favor. Sometimes he puts his pure devotees in such dangers because in that condition of helplessness, the devotee becomes more attached to the Lord. The more the attachment is there for the Lord, the more success there is for the devotee. And here's Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary. What was the reason? Kunti, I was more afflicted with suffering by my karmas. I was suffering even more than Devaki. I was saved by you, my master. She had a husband, Vasudeva, and thus had the possibility of having more children. And since you were the crest jewel among all children, she was the 8th child. He was the 8th child of Devaki, right? So the crest jewel of all children. What need was there for her previous inferior children? Now that's commentary. It's not what Krishna was necessarily thinking. Moreover, I was again and again saved from a host of dangers, whereas she was saved from one little danger caused by Kamsa. He was going to kill her. Little danger. She had not even a trace of danger, since she was happy with repeated expectations that the Supreme Lord would be born from her womb, and after you were born, she had no danger at all. Almost. So that's text 23, and now comes some detailing. We're going to plunge into Mahabharata shortly, because these dangers that are spoken of are not detailed in Srimad Bhagavatam, but there are historical record of the dangers she encountered in Mahabharata. So let's hear the verse being sung. My apology, the sound system kind of went on vacation or something. They knew tomorrow's Christmas or something and took an early vacation. Sanhage Purushada Darshanad Asat Sabhaya Vanavasa Krishprata Hriday Hriday Neka Maharatas Kato Runas.
Vishan Mahavni Purushad Darshanan Asat Sabhaya Banavasa Vichata Midhi Kamahasvato Dhanyastratastasma Hare Virakshita
Darshanad Asat Samhaya Vanavasa Krichatra Ridhe Mridhe Neka Mahanastato. My dear Krishna, your Lordship has protected us from poison cake, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the vicious assembly, from sufferings due to our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashvatthama. So all these are Mahabharata events. And many of you know the events, and it's nice to hear them again and again because they're in relation to Krishna. And hearing narrations in relation to Krishna or Harikatha has a wonderful effect. Many wonderful effects. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, these two main things, the coverings of Maya, of the soul, are reduced and eventually eliminated. And when you eliminate the coverings of the soul, there's something left, and that's the eternal soul. The consciousness of the eternal soul becomes awakened and illumined. And the original Krishna consciousness of living entity is the byproduct of hearing topics like we're going to be hearing shortly. So you notice in the Sanskrit, the first line of the Sanskrit is Vishan, and the nominative is Vishat. Vishat is poison cake. Here's a little history. We've discussed this, but it's nice to discuss it again. The father of the Pandavas was Pandu. That's how they got the name Pandavas. And Pandu died early when the boys were still young. Maybe your age. What's your age? 11, 12, 13. They were about the same age, but, they were young. Maybe teenage, something like that. But they were warriors and powerful. And their father died. Now, their father, Pandu, he was the king, but he liked being in the countryside or in the forest more than being in that big royal palace. And so that's where he stayed. But he died in the forest. And so what to do? Queen Kunti, the mother, called Vyasadev's name, and immediately Vyasadeva came and gave her the instruction, you shouldn't stay here in the forest unprotected. You should go back to Hastinapur, take shelter of the palace. Your husband is gone, but you're the queen, and you should take protection of the senior people in Hastinapur. So they went. Mother and their 5 boys. Now, about the same age as the 5 boys were 100 other boys. And the 100 other boys were the sons of Pandu's elder brother, Dhritarashtra. And amongst those 100 cousins, because Dhritarashtra and Pandu were brothers, so that means these are first cousins. There was one that was really bad. Duryodhana was really bad. And he pretended to get along okay with the Pandavas when they came back, but there, because the elder one, Yudhishthira, was born before Duryodhana was born, by law and practice, he was to become the next king, but he wasn't old enough to be king yet. So they were waiting for him to become of age. And he was envious. But more than envy of Yudhishthira was Bhima. Because Bhima was the son of Vayu, long story of how that happened. And he was very powerful. And boys would be boys, especially Kshatriya boys. They would sometimes have wrestling games, and Bhima would always win. Not only would win, but he would toss the other boys around, like throw them in the air, and he's just having boy fun. Duryodhana couldn't take it. He wanted to kill him. And he knew that Bhima had a voracious appetite. He has one of his names indicates he had a voracious appetite. You know the name? Starts with a V. Vrikodar. Go, oh yeah, Vrikodar. You never heard that name? Okay, now you learned another word today. Vrikodar. The name of Bhima means voracious appetite. And so there was a plan. The two cousin brothers would go have a picnic and, sporting activities. And then at the end of the day, they'd have a big feast. And the dessert for the big feast was cake. And Duryodhana made sure there was enough poison, vishat, in the cake that would kill 10 elephants. A lot of poison in that cake. And Bhima ate it all. And that was time, the end of the day, their time to go back. And Bhima was a little tired. So he just asked if he could rest a little bit before going back. And Duryodhana knew what that meant. He was poisoned. Wasn't just tired. And so they all went back to the palace from this summer place. And he is lying by the side of the river Ganga. And Duryodhana tied him up in rope, like bound him tightly, and rolled him into the Ganga with the idea that he's poisoned and he'll drown. Finished. But something happened. The body of Bhima was drawn by the current of the river to a place called Bila Svarga. Bila Svarga is a hole that goes down to the lower planetary regions. And those lower planetary regions, one of the places is the realm of the Nagas. That's what you see in this painting. And the Nagas thought lunch. So they started biting Bhima. But it just so happened the poison that they were carrying is the exact antidote for the poison of the cake. And it neutralized the poison of the cake. And then Bhima woke up. And he burst the bonds of those ropes and dealt with the Nagas. And the Nagas were then calling for help with this. So the king of the Nagas came and said, don't harm them. They didn't do anything wrong. They saved your life. And as the king of the Nagas, I want you to know what happened, how you got poisoned with poison cake. So Bhima went back to the place where their summer cottage was, back to the royal palace. Privately, he told his brother, Yudhishthira, what the king of the Nagas had told him. He tried to kill me. Let's get him. Bhima, nobody stops Bhima. And Yudhishthira was prudent. He said, not now. We'll just watch our backside. But right now, we've been in the forest for so long, and they've got this whole network of people that are their followers and friends and helpers, and this isn't the right time to have any combat. So, but just be vigilant for now. And they followed their elder brother. They weren't smarter than their elder brother. Even if they were, they did what their elder brother said because they were cultured. So, although there's a series of events that had nothing to do with Krishna, but Kunti understood Krishna is behind everything. It was Krishna that saved Bhima from the poison cake. I mean, the instrument was the Nagas, but behind the Nagas was Krishna. And she knew that Krishna is behind everything. He's the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karnam. Not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, it is said. Paramatma, Mayajakshena Prakriti, Suyate Sacharacharam, all moving and non-moving beings. They move or don't move under the sanction of the Supersoul, the Adhyaksha, the superintendence of Paramatma. So Krishna, as his Paramatma feature, she knew, Kunti knew, you saved Bhima from the poison cake. Then in the Sanskrit of the first line is this other phrase, Maha Agnihe. And you see in the painting, there's a big blazing fire. So when murder plot number 1 didn't work, Duryodhana didn't know that they knew that it was his attempted murder. And animosity and envy grew and grew and grew. And he came up with a more dirty, diabolical plot, not just to kill him, but to kill all 5 brothers and Kunti. And he had his Shakuni put him up to it, how to do it. And the plan was they build a place made of highly inflammable, it's commonly translated as a house of lac. It's highly inflammable, touch matched lacquer and fire. So they built a house at a special place that was known that every year around such and such time, they'd have a big festival. So they suggested, go to this place. Duryodhana made the proposal to his father, who said no. But he ranted and raved and threatened and everything else. So his father remained silent. So Duryodhana went forward with this plan. They built the house of lac. They made the suggestion that the family, the Kaurava, the Pandu brothers and mother go to this place where there's a big festival during the summer, and they spend some days there and have a nice time and get burned in fire. He didn't say that part though. So they went. But as they were going, this is detail, but it's nice to hear the detail. As they were leaving the royal palace, Uncle Vidura came and said something in a enigmatic fashion, kind of a riddle. And except for Yudhisthira, nobody understood what he was saying. So as they went further away, his mother, Kunti, asked, what did he say? And here's what he said. He said, there's 2 things. There's a plan to kill you, all of you, because Vidura was in the royal palace and he heard the skullduggery dirty plan. He wasn't supposed to hear it, but he heard it. And he disclosed the plan to the Pandavas and Kunti. They're planning to kill you. And the plan was through fire. And then he mentioned something about a tunnel. The escape will be through a tunnel. It was a riddle. But Yudhisthira understood, let's go. So sure enough, after some days staying at this house of lac, this gentleman came along his thing was building tunnels. So he made a hole in the center of the house, then went down, 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 and then out, out, out to the river. And he did his duty, and Yudhishthira knew what to do about it because he was smart. And sure enough, on that very festival day, there's details I'm leaving out, but on that very festival day, the signal was they're going to put the house on fire tonight. So get ready to use the tunnel. So when the house was about ready to be lit on fire, they went through the little hatch, little hole in the floor, and through the tunnel to the escape place. And the escape place, as you see in the painting, there's the Pandavas, there's Kunti, and there's who was waiting for them on the other side? Vidura. Uncle Vidura. With a boat to take him to the other side. He was lots of nice service. He had his boundaries that he had to stay within, but he was a pure devotee, Vidura. So he rescued them from a great fire. Now, the instrument was Vidura, but behind Vidura is Krishna. And Kunti knew that. Krishna arranged their being rescued from Maha Agnihi, a blazing great fire. And when they got in the boat and they got to the other side of the river, it was late at night and they were very tired. So what happened? Bhima put them all on his shoulders. He's huge, powerful Bhima. So his 4 brothers and mother went on his shoulders, and he carried them and carried them and carried them into the forest. So they would be protected in case someone discovered that they escaped. And sure enough, when he got to the other side, there was a cannibal who thought lunch or breakfast or whatever, my meal. So he came roaring. That was a mistake. And big battle. Bhima protected them. But where does the strength of Bhima come from? For that matter, where does anything come from? From the source of everything. That's where anything comes from. And Kunti knew it. Because many of you know Mahabharata, so we'll just do this. It's right in the Bhagavatam also. The power of Arjuna to defeat so many generals came from whom? Krishna, because he's the ability in a man. But later, when Arjuna was accompanying the queens of Dwarka back to Hastinapur, he was stopped by some cowherd men with sticks. They were harassing the queens, and they defeated Arjuna. And he was saying to his brother, I don't know how this happened. I actually know how it happened. Krishna gave me the ability to fight the generals, and Krishna took the ability away when it came to the cowherd men, because he wanted me to know your power isn't your power. It's my power. So use it wisely. Use it in my service. That's the lesson. And Kunti understood it because she's a pure devotee. And Krishna, this is Pavana Shakti, Krishna's power protection. He protected Draupadi, in this case, from the vicious assembly. Sabha means an assembly. And Asat Sabha is the Kauravas. There they are. There's Karna, because Karna wanted to get back at Draupadi. So Karna was a buddy of Duryodhana. So when Draupadi was lost, along with all the other things, you see the pile of their golden ornaments and helmets and everything, they lost everything. And then they lost Draupadi. So then it was suggested right in the public assembly strip her naked. There's details and details and details. Powerful warrior Dushasana is trying to strip her naked in the public assembly. She called to grandfather Bhishma and Dronacharya, say something, stop this. They remained silent. That's a no-no. You can't be silent when something like this happens. You must do something and speak something. He didn't. It is said by the commentators of Mahabharata, grandfather Bhishma lost his life because of this violation of not protecting a woman. It's such a bad, as powerful and as virtuous and everything as Bhishma was, you can't not protect women. It must be done. And you violate that one, you're going to lose. He lost his life because of it, according to the acharyas commenting on Mahabharata. What to speak of the others who were involved in the whole business. So what did Draupadi do? We're going to hear in a moment. Draupadi wasn't just, a frail lady. She was a Kshatriya lady. She had a punch. She punched Jayadratha and knocked him to the ground. And he was bloodied by her punch. She was a tough lady. But she was not a match for Dushasana. She was holding on to her sari and calling out, help. Then she gave up and just brought both hands in the air. You celebrated. Hey, Krishna, hey, Govinda. Krishna came. Later, it's said by the acharyas, Draupadi said, why did you wait so long to protect me? He said, because you were trying to protect yourself. But when you threw your hands up and just said, hey, Krishna, hey, Govinda, I was there. Right? I mean, sometimes you have to do something. But sometimes there's nothing you can do about the something. You take full shelter. The danger means full shelter opportunity. And Krishna was there, protected them, protected her from the vicious assembly, supplying unlimited sari, and Dushasana got worn out. The poor Pandavas looking, holding their head, and what a horrible thing. And they could do nothing because they had lost. Few more. We're not done yet. Vana, Vasa, Krishtrata. They were living for some time in the forest, so Vanavasa. And Krishtrata. Sufferings during their exile in the forest. So many, many, many tribulations, but always Krishna was there, giving them protection, because that's the theme of these two verses. Krishna is giving his protection. During the battle, what great generals fought. Maharata, Astrataha, Astrata, weapons. Great battle with many generals fought. And there's Krishna driving the chariot. There's Arjuna behind Krishna and fighting with there's grandfather Bhishma over there. We're going to hear more about the battle with grandfather Bhishma. Here's some examples specific from Mahabharata where Krishna gave his protection to, in this case, Arjuna from Bhishma's weapons. Now, Bhishma was a very powerful personality. He was so powerful. Bhishma was so powerful that even Parshuram couldn't defeat him. Really? Incarnation with his Parshu, his chopper, he couldn't defeat him? How powerful was grandfather Bhishma? Very powerful. And he had weapons. And a little bit, not too much, about grandfather Bhishma. He had a different name before it was Bhishma. Bhishma, there's the whole description of who was grandfather Bhishma, but he was the son of Santanu and Ganga. And he was given the name Devarata by his father. Now, many things happened, and many things happened, and many things happened. But later, Devarata came to know that his father was unhappy. So he inquired from the members of the palace, why is dad unhappy? Because there was a woman, Satyavati, who he wished to be married to, and she is the daughter of a fisherman, and the fisherman said no. So no further ado, he went to the fisherman and said, my father would like to marry your daughter, but I heard that you said no. Can you say yes instead of no? He said no, because my daughter was given a blessing by Parashara Muni that her son would become the king. But you're the firstborn son, so you'll become the king. So your father can't marry my daughter because you're going to become the next king, which would violate the promise, the words of Parashara. So I can't allow that. So Bhishma said, Devarata said, no problem. I take a vow. I won't become king. Now can my father marry your daughter? No. What? Why not? Because if you get married and have a child first before my daughter has a child, then your son will become the king. He said, okay, I'll make a second vow. Don't get married. He said, okay. The answer then is yes instead of no. And so Santanu married Satyavati. And there's more and more. But from that, when he took the second vow, it is said in Mahabharata, sounds from the sky came, Bhishma, Bhishma, great vow. So from then he was known as Bhishma. But Bhishma was known to not break his vow. But there's a problem. Even if you have a grandfather Bhishma, there's a problem. What's the problem this time? The problem was Bhishma, for different reasons, not really good ones, Bhishma he sided with the Kauravas when the battle was going to take place. And so he was made in charge, the commander-in-chief. Commander-in-chief. Invincible Bhishma, who even Parashuram couldn't defeat, is the commander-in-chief. Some days passed. On day 8, see, day 9, 18-day battle. On day 8 in the evening, Duryodhana went to Bhishma's tent and said, grandfather Bhishma, you're not doing your duty. You're renowned for being a follower of duty, and you're not doing your duty. What's that? You're not really trying hard because you're invincible. And you're not defeating the Pandavas. We're counting on you, etc. So Bhishma said, very well, I'll take a vow. My vow that's never broken is, with these 5 arrows tomorrow, when the sun rises, you bring me these 5 arrows, and with these 5 arrows, I'll kill the 5 Pandavas, okay? Oh, very good, very good. So Duryodhana went back to his tent. Omniscient Krishna knew about the vow. He said, Arjuna, do you remember when, long ago, you saved Duryodhana's life? There was a battle with a Gandharva, and he was being whooped, and he would have been dead. And you saved, you stopped the Gandharva. You saved his life. And he knew it. So he gave you this promise. Arjuna, anything you want, it's yours. Arjuna said, later I'll ask you. Arjuna, you remember all that? Yeah. Now's the time. Go to tonight, before you take rest, go to Duryodhana's tent and remind him of his promise and ask him for those 5 arrows. He'll know what you're talking about. So Arjuna did it. He went to Duryodhana's tent and Duryodhana said, oh, yes, I remember. Would you like the kingdom? It's yours. No, I don't want the kingdom. I want those 5 arrows. Next morning, day 9, Duryodhana went to his commander-in-chief, grandfather Bhishma's tent, as he always did, to offer his respects to the elder grandfather Bhishma. And Bhishma said, where are those 5 arrows? He said, oh, last night, Arjuna came and asked me for those 5 arrows. And Bhishma did quick math, 2 plus 2. This is Krishna's doing. I then take another vow because my vow has been broken. I who'd never break my vow has been broken by Krishna. So I'll take a vow that Krishna will break his vow, or I'll kill Arjuna before the sun sets tonight. Drum roll, lots of tension. So now what? So grandfather Bhishma fought with such fierceness, targeting everything to Arjuna. There's the painting. There's Bhishma with his arrows, firing arrows at Arjuna. Arjuna is firing his arrows at his beloved grandfather Bhishma. Krishna is moving this way and that way to catch the arrows, piercing his chest. Arjuna is feeling terrible. My master and Lord is receiving arrows in his chest because protecting me. And the battle became so intense. There's details and details and details. But at a certain point, Arjuna's chariot wheel fell off. So he got off his chariot to fix his chariot wheel. Bhishma was ready to fire arrows. Krishna saw that. He picked up the chariot wheel of Arjuna and raising it. He's got a Sudarshan chakra. He doesn't need a chariot wheel. But it's Leela. He got a chariot wheel in his hand, ready to smash grandfather Bhishma. And grandfather Bhishma went, dropped his weapons. Because it's exactly what he wanted. He wanted the world to see that for Krishna, protection of his devotees is paramount. He's got vows and he does things and he upholds. But more important than anything is protecting his devotees, and especially his dear devotee like Arjuna. Bhakta Vatsala. Those of you who like these Sanskrit terms. That's Krishna's, one of his crowning characters. He's the protector of his devotees. There's Arjuna holding him around the waist. No, don't smash Bhishma. Krishna's going to go ahead and smash Bhishma anyway. And it doesn't, just at that moment before he smashed him, the sun set. Battle's over. So Krishna didn't smash him. But Bhishma made Krishna break his promise, because Krishna had made a promise, I won't fight. He broke his promise to protect his devotee. So the powerful weapons, that was in her verse, you protected us from the powerful weapons of grandfather Bhishma. Now, I don't know about, it's 12 minutes after 2. Now, you're used to having Radhanath Swami come visit here, and I know he doesn't keep schedules. So with your permission, I'll break your schedule. Is that okay? Because once you get going with Mahabharata, there's no end to it. Way back when, there's many things to tell, but Bhishma had 2 brothers. Bhishma was the son of Santanu and Ganga, but Santanu also married Satyavati, and Satyavati had 2 sons, Vichitravirya and Chitrangada. So he, the elder brother, was making, because Santanu had died, he was making arrangements for his brothers or stepbrothers to have wives. So he, Bhishma, went all the way to Kashi to take part in the Swayamvar ceremony of the princesses, 3 daughters of the king of Kashi. And what did he do? He swooped in on his chariot, put them on this chariot, and held off all the charging warriors. And they went all the way back to Hastinapur. And when they got back to Hastinapur, one of the 3 daughters, named Amba, privately told Bhishma, I've already given my heart to Shishupal. Shalva. Shalva? Shalva. He said, okay, your sisters can stay and you can go back and become married to Shalva. That's okay with me. So she went back to Shalva because they had already had conversation about, let's get married. One of those things. So he had given his heart to her. She had given her heart to him. Bhishma came along and kidnapped all 3. Shalva said, I can't marry you. You've been touched by another man. You can go to your father, or you can go back to Bhishma or whatever you want to do, but I won't marry you. So she became sad. She went back to Bhishma and said, you have to marry me. He said, I have taken a vow. I'm not going to get married. So I'm sorry. You can go back to your father. She decided, I'm not going back to my father. What a shame if my life has become because of you. So she went to the forest. She underwent severe austerities. And she got this benediction that was very interesting, especially in modern times where what do they call it? Transvestite? Huh? Transgender, that's the term. Okay, transgender. So without all the back and forth, she became a woman who later then became a man. Sex change, but didn't give the details of how that happened, just by Lord Shiva's benediction. Reborn as a young man that later, in a woman that later became a man. And Shikandi on day 10 was engaged in a battle, but Bhishma wouldn't fight a woman. And so Shikandi was able to kill grandfather Bhishma. Now that's not exactly Krishna's protection, but that's the consequence of failing to give protection to Draupadi, or any woman for that matter. Then comes another scene that's also mentioned in her prayers to Krishna. There's Jayadrath. I mentioned Jayadrath, and Draupadi smacked him. So the first time he even saw her, there's Draupadi doing some service by a river. And there's, in the background, there's a chariot where Jayadrath, who was the son of a king, and because his father was now quite old, he was the king of the Sindh province. And he, on his marriage day, he married Dhritarashtra's daughter. Did you know that Dhritarashtra had a daughter? In case you didn't know, he had a daughter. He had 100 sons, but he also had a daughter, one. And the daughter's name was Dushala. So Jayadratha married Dushala. And on their wedding day, he saw Draupadi at a distance riding in their wedding chariot. And he went, woo, woo, woo. I want Draupadi. Here's a chart. If you look on the lower left, you can see Jayadratha and Dushala. On the far left, that's Dhritarashtra's 100 sons headed by Duryodhana. I'm not going to go through the whole chart. If you want a copy of this, don't take a picture of it. I'll just send you a copy. I'll send it to, who do I send it to? I'll send it to Harish, and you can make sure others get it. It's a nice chart. You know, you start at the top and, you know, there's everybody. So all the different, the genealogy of all these different people. And Jayadratha, then later, he saw Draupadi, and he had already was like, woo woo, I want to marry Draupadi, although she was already married. I didn't just like exploit her or something, not necessarily marry her. So he tried to abduct her, and she socked him right in the face, right in the jaw, and he fell to the ground. Powerful general, Jayadratha, very powerful guy. So, but he's more powerful than she. He tied her up, took him on his chariot. She called out loudly for her husbands, all 5 of them. And one of her husbands happened to hear. And one of those husbands happened to be the one with the big club. And Bhima got Jayadratha and was ready to smash him into little pieces. Fortunately for Jayadratha, at least for his life, Yudhishthira was there and stopped him. He's a king, you can't do this. He's a king, you can't do this. He's unarmed, you can't do this. So what did they decide? They decided they would, for one who has once been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Correct? Bhagavad Gita? Confirmed. Okay. So they disgraced him. They had very sharp swords, and with their sharp swords, they gave him a half a haircut and left little tufts of hair, 5 tufts of hair here and there, and ordered him. See, they're in the background, they're laughing at him and ridiculing him, all over, you know, his lust for Draupadi. Poor fellow. And then after laughing at him and humiliating him, declaring him the slave of Yudhishthira, they let him go. So a person like Jayadratha doesn't take it well. So he was in a get back mood. So his get back plan was he'd go to a way up in the Himalayas, engage in austerities for a long time, requesting benediction from Lord Shiva. You know, some persons do for this and for that, other motives. His was the dark motive. He wanted to get back motive. So Lord Shiva came and offered whatever benediction you would like. Now there's 2 versions, and I'm going to tell one of the 2. I'm going to tell both of the 2 versions. One version says he asked for 2 boons. One was he could defeat all the Pandavas. And Lord Shiva said, I'm sorry, I can't do that because Krishna has dear, dear affection for Arjuna, and I can't go against what Krishna does. So you can defeat the other Pandavas, but not Arjuna. And he was happy with that. And that benediction of Lord Shiva enabled Jayadratha to hold off the Pandavas when the Kauravas were attacking Abhimanyu. Right? Some of you know. Some of you don't know. You'll see some nice illustrations that explain it. And there's at least one version of Mahabharata says he wanted a second benediction. Then anyone who does try to kill me, that person who makes my head fall to the ground is going to have his own head broken in 7 pieces. Now, I'll tell you ahead of time, there's another version that says that was a benediction given by Jayadrath's father to protect Jayadrath, that anyone who harms you and makes your head fall to the ground, their head will crack in 100 pieces. There's 2 versions of Ramayana, both very popular. So some time passed. That's skipping details because it's already 20 after 2. Abhimanyu. Who is Abhimanyu the son of? Abhimanyu is the son of Arjuna and Subhadra. Is that correct? You know who Subhadra is, right? The sister of Krishna and Balaram, Subhadra. Arjuna married her, and they had a son. His name was Abhimanyu. So when the Pandavas were in their 1 year incognito, they were staying at the palace of King Virat. And Arjuna was doing the service of being the dance instructor. Look at this. There's Arjuna, the dance instructor, instructing Uttara. But there was a problem. There was several problems. There's always a problem. Many things happened. The Kauravas, I'll skip many of the nice details. They had a powerful general, and Bhima finished him because Bhima was after Draupadi. Don't mess with Bhima, whatever you do. He made pulp of this powerful general, and the word spread. Really? So the Kauravas knew. They did quick math too. 2 + 2 equals. The Pandavas are King Virat's palace, because who else could destroy this powerful general? Let's go and attack. So they went to it. They had a plan. When they were going to attack, they started attacking the cows and cow herds of King Virat. Arjuna heard. Arjuna said, I'll stop them. So single-handedly, he got the son of King Virat to be his chariot driver, and went and got his bow and arrows that were hung on a tree some distance away for this whole year that they were incognito, and defeated the whole, single-handedly defeated the whole Kaurava army. When they got back, King Virat said, whoa, wait a minute, you're not just a dance teacher. Who are you anyway? Are you Arjuna? And I'd like to reciprocate with you for this kindness that you've extended to my kingdom. I'd like to give you in charity my daughter in marriage. And Arjuna said, a teacher can't marry his student. That's not Vedic. But I have a son, and my son is of marriageable age, much like your daughter. So how about this? My son, Abhimanyu, can marry your daughter. So that's what happened. Abhimanyu became the husband of Uttara. There's Arjuna as the dance teacher. Now, Abhimanyu and Uttara, before the Kurukshetra battle happened, they were married, and in course of time, she became pregnant. And there's Abhimanyu, this young man fighting on the battlefield, and he is such an intense fighter. He was something like 16 years of age, but he was fighting like 10 generals. And so what did the Kauravas do? day 13 of the battle, they surrounded him. 7 generals in this violation of a law, of Kshatriya code. And they all were attacking him. And as soon as they found out, the Pandavas found out, not just Arjuna, but all 5 of the Pandavas found out, they had Jayadrath protect the 7 generals so that they could kill Abhimanyu. They had a difficult time. This is one painting. Here's another painting. And Abhimanyu was like intense, really intense. So this is still day 13. This painting is showing over there on the left. That's Jayadrath holding off the Pandavas because he had this benediction from Lord Shiva. And they killed Abhimanyu mercilessly, unlawfully, according to Kshatriya code. Arjuna came to know his son had been killed by these generals held off by Jayadrath. So Arjuna took a terrible vow. Tomorrow, before the sun sets, I will kill Jayadrath or I'll enter fire. Ooh, word spread. The Kauravas had a big celebration. Yay! All we have to do tomorrow is just protect Jayadrath. And Arjuna is going to enter fire because he keeps his word. And the battle's over because he's such a powerful warrior. So Krishna asked Arjuna, why'd you do this? He said, because I knew you'd protect me. It's about Krishna's protection, right? That's the topic. So the next day, that's day 14. Boo! The armies lined up, this on this side, that on that side, and off they go. And Arjuna is completely focused on one thing. Before it was the eye of the fish, and now it's Jayadrath. And they were protecting him. The whole army was protecting Jayadrath. And Arjuna, with hundreds of arrows, as he already defeated the entire Kaurava army, he's now defeating hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But they're all trying to protect Jayadrath because at the end of the day, Arjuna's going to give up his life. Then in the course of the battle, the drum roll and the trumpets and all excitement, he passed by the commander-in-chief at this time, Dronacharya. And Arjuna understood, I can't defeat Dronacharya, he's invincible. And so he just sped past him, heading directly for Jayadrath. But intervening was Duryodhana. So what did Arjuna do? There's the painting is showing this weapon intercepted that weapon and so forth and so on. Very, very expert archers and mystical weapons. He was so good. Arjuna pierced the fingers and hands of Duryodhana. So he's out of commission. And then he directly confronted Jayadrath. And the whole Kaurava army was surrounding him to protect him. What's going to happen next? Bhima got his club and started to clear the way so Arjuna could get to Jayadrath. And then the sun started to set. Only minutes remained until the sunset. So what did Krishna do? He raised his right hand. Sudarshan chakra appeared on the tip of his finger. And he released Sudarshan chakra in such a way that it looked like the sun was being eclipsed by his chakra. And darkness enveloped the whole battlefield. And everyone thought, it's over. The sun set. Arjuna took a vow. okay, if I don't kill Jayadratha, I'm going to enter fire. So they had a big celebration. And then what did Krishna do? He withdrew Sudarsana Chakra. And then they could see, and although the Kauravas were cheering and it was darkness, there's the sun hadn't set yet at all. And then Arjuna instantly released his weapon, his celebrated arrow, very special arrow, and it flew straight at Jayadratha, who was unaware by the sudden appearance of the sun. So he's dead. Arjuna's vow is fulfilled. Now, Krishna gave a very specific instruction to Arjuna. The old Sindhu king, Vidrakshata, a constant enemy of the gods, blessed his son Jayadratha that whoever made his head fall to the earth will himself die, his own head shattered into 100 pieces. This is the other Mahabharata version. Instead of 7, it was 100. And it was a vow that came from the father, not from Lord Shiva. In any case, I know that his father now sits some miles from here at Samatha Panchaka, deep in meditation. Arjuna, empower your arrow to carry Jayadratha's head to his father's lap. So sure enough, he had charged his arrow with Brahma's power. And there you see the body without the head. That's in the center of the painting. And there goes the head. Zoom, flying in the air, lands on the lap of his father who's engaged in meditation. And as soon as he sees the head of his son on his lap, he threw it on the ground. And as soon as he threw it on the ground, his head cracked. Depends on which version of Ramayana, how many pieces. So this is back to Queen Kunti's prayers. You protected us in so many ways. But the battle's not over. The vicious assembly was before, and now it's the difficulties during this battle. This is the verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. Wherever there's Arjuna and Krishna, there's sure to be victory. Should I keep going? I should keep going. I'll try to go quickly. We're pretty close to the end. If you have to leave, go ahead and leave, but I'll try to finish. Day 15 of 18. Dronacharya. Dronacharya became the commander-in-chief after Bhishma was finished by Sikandi, and she was lying on the bed of arrows. And there's grandfather Bhishma giving direction to the Kaurava army. There's Dronacharya on his chariot. And what happens next? He's invincible. Krishna gives a very curious instruction. You ready? Yudhisthira, I want you to go inform in a loud voice to Dronacharya, Ashvatthama is dead. Because Ashvatthama is his son, and he's very attached to his son. Like this, not ordinary, super attached to his son. And Yudhisthira says, but I've never told a lie. Krishna said, there's different versions. One says, under your breath, you can say, Ashvatthama, the elephant, is dead. That's the painting. Ashvatthama, the elephant, is dead. But just this is an instruction. So just follow it. So Yudhisthira did. Some of you may know that it is said in Mahabharata that Yudhisthira's chariot never touched the ground because he was so virtuous. But after he told the lie, his chariot touched the ground. because he lost the virtue, the merit of his virtue. Bhakti Siddhanta explains, it's not because he told the lie, it's because he hesitated. His chariot touched the ground. In any case, Yudhishthira said, and Dronacharya was devastated. Now, here's another bad move. There was a commander-in-chief of the Pandavas' army. And who was his name? Drishtadyumna. Drishtadyumna? Who's Drishtadyumna anyways? Drishtadyumna is the brother, the elder brother of Draupadi, because there was this long-standing Mahabharata-esque conflict between Drupad and Drona. You're nodding your head. You know the story? Yeah. Okay, so Drupad, and to get back at Drona, he held a yajna with the explicit sankalpa that from this yajna, a son would be generated who would be capable of killing Drona. So from the fire came two. He got a bonus, a son and a daughter. And the daughter was Draupadi. And then there was the son, Drishtadyumna. So although he was born with the explicit purpose of being the one who would bring the death of Drona, Drona accepted him as a student. That's the liberal Brahmin. Knowing that he would bring about his destruction, he taught him everything, 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 including how to be a commander-in-chief. And this same Drishtadyumna, when Drona was devastated that his son Ashvatthama was dead, although he wasn't yet dead, Drishtadyumna, violating religious, sacred warrior codes, came and chopped off his head. Now, I searched and I couldn't find anything saying why, what was the impetus for that? Other than, I couldn't find it. You can, perhaps this and maybe that. And it was commanded that that's what he would do. And so he did it. But he did it in a very diabolical way. So that's day 16. We have 2 more days of the battle to remain. There's Karna. And we heard about Karna. Those of you that don't know, Karna, in addition to the 5 Pandavas, Karna was the firstborn son of Kunti. There's so many stories within Mahabharata. Kunti, when she was a young girl, she was living in a royal palace, not married, just living in a royal palace. And because she was such a cultured young girl, she was given the service of taking care of any guests that came to the royal palace. Lo and behold, one of those guests that came was Durvasa Muni. Oh, everyone's afraid of Durvasa Muni because he's the partial incarnation of Lord Shiva, easily pleased and easily angered. She served him so nicely. She served him, Durvasa Muni, so nicely. Durvasa Muni knew she would have difficulty in her adult life having children. So he gave her this benediction. You served me so nicely, let me give you this benediction. Here's a mantra, and you just insert the name of any one of the demigods in this mantra, and the demigod will come and produce children with you. Little girl, young woman. She was curious. I wonder if it works. So she tried it out. And sure enough, It worked. The first demigod she called was the sun god. And there, Suryadev showed up. And poor Kunti, what to do, what to do? She said, no, no, no. And he said, don't worry. Your virginity won't be lost. She said, I don't know how you're going to do that, but if I'm walking around pregnant for 9 months, don't worry. The child will be born immediately. No one will know. So a child was conceived, and he was Karna, who was the son of the sun god. And when Karna was born, he was born not only immediately, but with celestial armor that would protect him all over his body, celestial armor. Just before the Kurukshetra battle was going to take place, the father of Arjuna was Indra. Good. So what did Indra do? Indra paid a visit to Karna. Disguised as an old Brahmin, Indra went to Karna and asked for charity. Indra was apprehensive that Karna, because he was such a powerful warrior, he could maybe able to overwhelm Arjuna. So he asked Karna for his armor, his celestial armor. Now, before Indra went, the sun god went and visited Karna and said, watch out. Indra is going to come and ask you for your celestial armor. But when he came disguised as a Brahmana, Karna's character was such that he couldn't say no. So he agreed, I'll give you my armor. And the painting is showing he's cutting off his armor, and down in front of him is all the armor. And Indra was amazed. And he said to Karna, what you just did is not human. You're a celestial being. To give anything away in charity, because it's a Kshatriya's duty, and he did it. So then Indra asked Karna, ask for any benediction you like. And he said, yes, I'd like your Shakti weapon. And with your Shakti weapon, that one that has the potency to destroy any enemy. Which enemy? Arjuna. And so he gave him the Shakti weapon on one condition. It can only be used once. And after it's used once, it's going to come back to me, my Shakti weapon. So what happened during the battle was there was this really, really intense, one of the sons of Bhima, who was the leader of Rakshasas, because Hidimbi had a sister. Bhima married Hidimbi, and there was a son born. And he was assisting the Kaurava, the Pandavas. He had a whole division, Akshauhini division of Rakshasas. And they were all attacking Karna. So he used his Shakti weapon. Now it's gone. Krishna's protection. This is Kunti's understanding of what's going on. And now here's the day before the last battle day, Karna's wheel got stuck in the mud. And Krishna ordered Arjuna to kill him. Karna heard and criticized Krishna really badly. What kind of Kshatriya are you? And what Krishna said was, when it suits you, you adamantly oppose an unjust act against yourself or against your friends. but you do not speak up against the injustice of others. Where was your sense of justice when the Pandavas were cheated out of their kingdom, or when Draupadi was dragged into the assembly by her hair, or when 6 warriors, or was it 7, surrounded Abhimanyu and cut him down? No, my friend, you will be treated the way you have allowed others to be treated. Called karma, right? What goes around comes around. Here comes the arrow. So Karna was slain by Arjuna's Anjalika weapon. And when it shows, the painting shows or drawing shows, his head fell off right in front of his chariot wheel, fired by Arjuna under the order of Krishna to do so. And when that came to be known by Duryodhana, his dear friend Karna was killed, he wasn't just angry, he was inconsolable. So he went on a rampage. And the end, day 18, big battle between the club bearers, Duryodhana and Bhima, both who were trained by Balaram, and battling and battling and battling and battling. Balaram tried to convince them not to fight. They kept fighting. Balaram went away. He tried. And then what happened? Krishna went like this. And Bhima understood. You know the story? This is his thigh. Because the mother of Drona was who? Gandhari, right? Gandhari. Gandhari had a blindfold on because when she was told who her husband would be, that he was blind, she didn't say, no, I won't marry that guy. She put a blindfold on. And she underwent that austerity. So she became very powerful through that austerity of being, apparently blind. But she wanted to make her elder son invincible. So she said, I'm going to remove this blindfold and I want you to stand before me naked. And then your body will be invincible by the power of my austerities. And he was convinced to put a gamsha on instead. So that meant his thigh was now not invincible. Krishna knew. Krishna just tapped his thigh. Bhima understood. He smashed and broke the thigh of Duryodhana. And there's one more that Queen Kunti says, and that was, you saved us from the astra, the weapon of Ashvatthama. Because when Drona's son wasn't killed, he knew that his father had been killed for that reason. He wanted to get back at the Pandavas. And one of the ways to get back at the Pandavas, this is almost done. One of the ways to get back at the Pandavas was to kill their descendants, because he had already killed the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas, and that left the grandchild, who was Maharaj Parikshit, in the womb of Uttara. So he sent a Brahmastra weapon to kill the child in the womb of Uttara. Bad fellow, so-called Brahmin. But Krishna protected personally. The painting shows that thing with the U shape, that meant to mean the Brahmastra. It's a mystical weapon. And Krishna personally checked, because it's a heat weapon, Krishna checked the heat so that the child survived. Krishna personally. All the other incidences, he did it indirectly through the agency of someone. He protected the Pandavas. And there's this nice saying, Rake Krishna Mare Krishna Rake Ke. I'm sure you've heard this one before. He whom Krishna protects, no one can kill, But if Krishna wants to kill someone, no, it can give him protection. So this has all been all about protection and Queen Kunti's appreciation of to Krishna, of his protecting her, her sons, and Draupadi, and their grandchild, again and again and again. Again, so he's fulfilling his promise of Bhagavad Gita, and it's just his nature. Many great misfortunes befell the Pandavas, but in all circumstances, they simply depended on Krishna, who always saved them. And it's only 10 minutes to 3 o'clock. You've been all very patient. I mean, some people had to go, I think, but the rest of you are very, very patient. I guess you're used to long classes or something here. Plus, it's easy to hear Mahabharata. The pastimes are so nice. Krishna's protecting Kunti and all of her family members. But then we're going to hear about the calamities. That comes this afternoon. Let the calamities come again and again. Any discussion? Any complaints besides the class was too long? All the way in the back.
Summarize. My question is like when I'm hearing pastimes and the stories on how everybody got the power, they accumulated the power, Shakti, Astra, and the benedictions, and everything was used in the war. So sometimes it makes me feel like, what is the point getting powerful weapons and benediction when at the end, so somebody should be like, does it like we should to gain it?
Help. The sound system is crummy. We're going to bring you mic number 2. And if that doesn't work, we're going to bring you mic number 3. But you're going to have to go back to the beginning. Besides, the, thank you for the nice class. That's what comes after that.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, this is working.
Let's
Hare
see.
Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you. Maharaj, when you were telling all these great warriors and saintly people collecting the benedictions and the Shakti Astras and everything, but it looked like everybody is collecting and collecting just for what? For the purpose of gaining more power and desires.
Power.
Correct. So does that mean that none of anybody in this whole world should try to collect those powers at all and just like, it's no use?
Why are you asking that question? You read Prabhupada's books. So the answer is, it's silly. It's material. What does material mean? What does material mean? Material means I want to enjoy separate from Krishna. And then when that misuse of free will comes, then comes the modes of nature. And some want this, some want that, some want the other thing. And many of these wanting power folks, it's tamagun. So they want powers that they can get the other guy or something. It's tamagun. So there's power that comes from tapas. I mean, let's say Gandhari, she didn't do so she can get somebody, but she used her power of the combined accumulated tapas to protect her son. Passion. Anyway, the modes of nature are influencing this world. So your question is, it's not exactly clear. Is it okay to do that? It's silly. It stays on the material platform. It's not recommended for us. What's recommended for us is tapo divyam. You know the verse? Canto 5, chapter 5, text number 2. It's the duty of human being is to engage in transcendental tapa. Tapo divyam putrakayena. So it's Rishabdev's instructions to his sons. That's what we should do. Doesn't mean we don't do tapa. We do tapa. But we do tapa for a reason. It's the please Krishna reason.
So what's wrong with like a mother, like Gandhari is a mother and she's a very pious, devoted wife. Now, if she is trying to protect her son Duryodhana, why did it end up in the wrong way?
Because for different reasons. Krishna checked it. I mean, ultimately, why did Krishna's plan is everything? Now, why did Krishna come? Because people were violating Dharma. So why do people violate Dharma? They have free will. They can comply with or violate Dharma. Supposing a lot of people violate Dharma, what does Krishna do? He checks it. So he can check it this way, he can check it that way. And in the case of Gandhari, he checked it the way that he checked it. My answer is very, very similar to Kunti's understanding. Behind that protection was Krishna for his devotee. And those who aren't devotees, Krishna can vinashaya chaduskritam in different ways. But he's behind it. And there are people that don't see what's behind it. They only see the instrument. They don't see the hand that's wielding the instrument. So it came out the way that it came out because Krishna's behind it. Duryodhana was bad. He's one of the reasons why Krishna appeared in this world. Krishna wanted Duryodhana to be finished. It's one of the reasons for appearing. He could do it in different ways. He did it the way that he did it.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Now, let's just close our eyes and imagine that you're Krishna. You'd probably do it in a different way. Now, open your eyes. He's Krishna. He did it the way he did it. And he could have done it any one of n number of different ways. He just did it the way that he did it. And we accept because that's what he wanted to do. He got his. And he gave Bhima the service of doing it. He, Duryodhana, in multiple ways, had murder plots to kill Bhima. It's not like it had to be Bhima, but it was just. Okay. Then we'll close our eyes again. You can be Krishna for a while and do it differently. Okay. Yes. Question up front.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, Bhishma and Dronacharya, they're great devotees of Krishna, but in the assembly, when Draupadi was struggling, why didn't they help speak out and help Draupadi, like other than like Leela? But why didn't they help?
They should have.
Yeah.
Well, why does anybody do anything that they shouldn't do? I recently had a nice conversation with somebody who did something they knew they shouldn't do, and they did it. Like, I wasn't taking a cosmetic answer for why. No, in Bhishma's case, is in Bhishma's case, it was Krishna wanted to use Bhishma as an instrument to teach a lesson. Don't protect women, you're in trouble. But Bhishma is in a caliber other than Drona. Drona wasn't the same caliber as Bhishma. He is a very learned person, you know, a Brahmana, and very capable in many ways. But he made a wrong decision. I've not read anything by our acharyas, like I just said, what Prabhupada said about Bhishma. He was being used as an instrument of Krishna to teach a lesson. Does anybody in the room know from our acharyas why Dronacharya didn't speak up? Anything from our commentaries of acharyas? So I don't have the answer. I can see if somebody, very learned devotees, know, and if I find out, I'll let you know. What? Yeah, but that's not right. But but he knows better. But he knows better. I mean, it's a little bit, this answer is a little bit like, why did Bhima fight on the side of the Kauravas? He took a lesser principle to be greater than a greater principle, for reasons that Krishna had, because he's Bhishma. So the greater reason was he was being maintained by the royal family. And so I'm now obliged, being maintained by the royal family, to fight on behalf of the royal family, even they're the bad guys. And they're anti-Krishna, and I'm Krishna's devotee. So he took the lesser and put it in the superior position. But that was Krishna's purpose. So I guess you could say what he's saying is he just felt an obligation. Similar. I'm being maintained. I'm a Brahmana, and the main source of my dakshin is through the royal family. So I'm obliged to them. But, you know, that's not the right principle. Well, you can say that's the reason or a reason why he did. There's probably a deeper reason. From our acharyas, there's probably some additional reason besides the superficial one.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. That's it. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Oh, announcer, do your thing. Some announcements? Go take prasadam or something. There's some new people, they don't know what's next.
Hare Krishna devotees, Prasadam will be served upstairs. You may proceed. Quick announcement: we are going to celebrate New Year's Eve in the temple. We will take Supreme Dhammas on the 31st of December. We are also going to spend that and following the 1st of January in Congress. The United States was sincere gratitude is on the Rompad on Maharaj. By now, please thank you 3 times. We are celebrating as usual.